The Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the movie raid, and tonight's victim is Ezra Buzzington, actor that played in the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, and played in Ghost World and countless other TV shows as must films. Hello!
I've never heard of him. I have no idea what you're talking about. Ezekiel Bongwater? Is that who you said it was?
Well, I mean, that could be your new nickname or handle, you know, if you want to be...
It's funny, I do get some mail from a local theater company here in town to Ezekiel Bongwater.
What they can do with film titles, they can do with your name.
Maybe I should change it, you know, because I got my name from my grandfather's vaudeville name. It was his stage name. And so I got it from him when I had to change my name when I joined the Screen Actors Guild from my legal name, which no one knows. So from Ezra Buzzington to Ezekiel Bongwater seems like a good transition for me. It matches my brand. I have a very strange life. I have a very unusual life in Hollywood and Los Angeles and well, the world, I guess. So,
well, that's not so bad.
That's not here there.
I mean, everyone takes up a modeling every once in a while, especially with their feet. Whatever.
As long as it pays. I'm totally down. And you don't show my face.
So that's the main rule. You never show my face.
Well, the reason is nobody wants to see it. See, that's the problem. It's not that I don't want to show it. It's that they don't want to see it. They're scared of it.
Dude, there you go. Superhero feet. There you go. Superhero feet modeling right there. That's for you.
You know what? I was told when I was a kid, by kid I mean I was in college, that by the people in the dance department at Ball State University, where I briefly attended, that my feet, it was summer and I just had sandals on or something, and one of them, sort of little diva, ballerina, saw my foot and said, "Ooh, monsieur, you have a perfect point." And I went, "I didn't even make a point. What are you talking about?" She goes, "No, your foot. It's a perfect point." So apparently, I am the envy of all ballet dancers everywhere, because I have the perfect point. Do you know what a perfect point is?
No, I do not. I'm sorry.
Well, then you need to go back to school and study dance. Because apparently in ballet, there's something called the point, where you just extend your leg and it goes pointy.
I went to the strip club. I went to the wrong bar, apparently.
You know, I bet you I would give you dollars to donuts that any one of the women you asked who's working at a club, especially on the pole, would be able to tell you what a perfect point is. I pretty much guarantee you, because those mamas, they know how to dance. They know from their dance. They know Pilates. They know all the whole bit. Because I used to be a dancer too, but just not on the pole. Well,
all right, there'll be a video segment for next time. I promise.
I just see you as you're walking like a $5 or $10 bill. So, would you please discuss for me the various attributes of having a perfect point? Can you imagine?
I can't imagine.
Ask the ones who dress like a ballerina, though. She'll know.
You can dress like Black Swan, so that way you feel important. I mean, whatever. I can be the Nutcracker.
Didn't we talk about that just before we started recording?
We will have a raffle soon. We'll let you know.
Extra, $50 extra for the Nutcracker.
We'll have a raffle later. We'll let you know.
This conversation is spiraling into various depths that we
yes.
To,
So, what have you been doing lately? Have you been getting some more roles lately? Have you been touring the country, Comic-Con, and so forth?
I haven't been doing anything. This year, actually, has been very thin for a lot of people, and pretty much everybody I speak with in Los Angeles, for reasons unknown. Some known, some unknown. The business has changed a bit, and there's a lot of runaway production, and a lot of, unfortunately, commercial work is going non-union. So for all of my union brethren and sisterin, it's been a thinner year than usual, it seems. I suppose you might be able to find an actor who would counter that. But the majority I've spoken with, and this is including me, have commented on how the industry has changed to the point in 2018 that it's just a little bit tougher for everybody. But, you know, everything is pendulumic. You know, sometimes it's riding really high, sometimes it's riding really low, and there's just no predicting it. The only rule of thumb is there really are no rules to making it in Hollywood. And you just have to ride it like the roller coaster it is, and sometimes throw your arms up in the air and scream, "Wee." But as far as anything that's on the horizon for me, I'm very excited to see how this project I worked on for David Slade, did 30 Days of Night and various other things, and directed me in the television show Crossbones with Malkovich for like 9 months in Puerto Rico, which was incredible. Anyway, he contacted me to shoot his short entry into an anthology, a horror anthology called Nightmare Cinema, which also features Joe Dante and it's as a director, and it's played a couple festivals. I still haven't seen it, but it's played a couple festivals out of Los Angeles either the end or early next year, end of this or early next year, Nightmare Cinema, and it stars Mickey Rourke and several other well-known actors. I think Richard Chamberlain is one of the pieces. And I just shot a crazy indie for Kyle Hester, producer Kyle Hester. He's also an actor. He was in the chair with me, and he managed to talk Grady Earls into directing an original script called Preacher 6, in which Kyle is actually playing the title role. And I'm a sort of, oh God, how do you describe him? Sort of like a Dickensian character, like Charles Dickens' character, sort of a street nut who's a shyster and a little con man, and he does three-card Monte with these huge demonic angels. It's what I've seen so far looks incredibly cool. So again, that should open sometime next year. Looking forward to that. But it's an indie, so don't look for a wide release. It'll probably be on video on demand, I would imagine. A lot of the business is going straight to, downloadable stuff, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't matter as long as the check clears and I have a good time.
Yeah, everybody can check it out, and hopefully, because it seems like more independent films are coming out, but it seems it's such a real hassle just to get, just to get some kind of a release, even on even a local theater or a festival.
Well, it's outrageously expensive. I mean, when even the major studios are spending 40 at least % into marketing, probably more, for an independent filmmaker. They never can budget for that, so they're lucky to get by and shoot the film, let alone finish the film in post, let alone after that get any kind of distribution deal. Because the festival circuit, which used to be a really good inroad, from my understanding, independent filmmakers to find distributors who would pick up their film, pick it up and put it out there, and then take the marketing cost. Those are kind of dwindling now. They're not at all what they used to be. And so this is why, I assume, one of the reasons many producers and filmmakers have gone the route of downloadable VOD stuff. It's just simply easier to get there, is my understanding. Again, I'm just an actor. I mean, I do produce and direct, but my information is limited on that end of it. But from what I have viewed, this is what I see. You can't get like a standard 4-wall distribution deal with, one of the majors unless you have a huge star or you have a lot of money behind it or any one of a million reasons. It has nothing to do with the quality of a piece ever. Is my understanding, is my takeaway from working in the business now for about 20 years. It's, talent is great, but it won't get you there. Talent will keep you there, but it certainly won't get you there. Branding, marketing, social presence, social internet presence, followers, those sorts of things now are coming into play far more than the actual ability to do the job. That's not being spoken from a cynical point of view. That's just simply being spoken from a matter-of-fact sort of logical point of view.
Do you think that even when it comes to acting point, do you think they're even using actors at a minimal because of, or unnecessary, like a crutch in their future acting? Because, again, it's all about the profit?
Well, any producer worth their salt is only thinking about the profit. So they can't be faulted for that. But I have lost several roles to a name I can't mention, who I see very often at auditions. Because in television especially, they would be able to use his name in a trailer. But he's notorious for being on set and a problem and costing them money because of delays and what have you. But still, he gets hired because of the one show he once did that got some recognition, and now the controversy surrounding him pretty much on the social network land. That is what it is. It's like, I get it. As a producer, I would say, okay, well, let's go with this guy instead because we'll get, 100,000 more views. But I guarantee you, I or any of my friends could outact this poor guy's, ass in any kind of act off. But, again, it's not a bitterness, it's not a cynicalness, it's an understanding of what the landscape of business is and trying to find one's place within that, finding the crevices in the rock to grab hold and pull yourself up. And I get roles he won't get, so it is a trade-off. But one cannot be faulted for looking at the bottom line when they're spending tens to hundreds to millions, thousands of dollars in a project. It's just that's their job. If they weren't doing that, they wouldn't be doing their job. But then it's up to the director, the casting director, and anybody else with any kind of aesthetic influence to push for the level of artistic ability and try and get as much of that as they can out of the money pit that is making movies or television.
When you see a TV show and then, you can tell it's not going to be so great, do you think like the investors kind of seems like they intend to make it a flop just so they can find their actual talent to make a better show that they know they're going to make money off of?
It's an interesting theory, and it wouldn't surprise me, but honestly nothing in the business does surprise me anymore. Absolutely nothing. But I hold firm to the thought that no matter who it is, regardless of their level of talent or lack thereof, would ever set out to make anything worse than it is. Now, what they will do is especially television, they will eliminate anything perhaps with an edge in terms of its humor, and I'm a very edgy actor, so I'll get this a lot. When you're on a set and you do one thing, or you say you booked a show, and then you go to the table read, and it reads one way. This table read is where you sit around and all the cast is there, all of the producers there, and more often than not, the network people are there. So if you have a joke that is perhaps, or not even a joke, but a line that is just on the edge of potentially offending someone or even just running the risk of that, it will be eliminated by the time you start shooting. And even if you shoot it, odds are it's going to get cut. As a result, I mean, again, they're watching their bottom line. They don't want a Twitter war over a particular line that was said on a particular show. So unfortunately, as a result, what happens is a sort of watering down of any kind of true character, any kind of real depth. And this is primarily network I'm talking about here, by the way, the majors. When it comes to the cable, the FXs, or the Hulus, obviously, or Netflix or any of those, they can call their own shots. But network television is dependent on people not being offended by anything they do. So my experience has been that they will tend to water down anything that's slightly edgy. I mean, look what happened with Roseanne. That's a perfect example. They will water down anything that is potentially offensive or actually is offensive, as was the case with her tweet, to save their butts. Everybody in the business, by necessity, is looking to save their butts because there are hundreds of other people out to get their butts. So that you do have to be careful in Hollywood. You do have to be careful in the business because there are other people who want to replace you, especially on the executive end and administrative end, but also on the creative end. Less so with actors, but certainly true with directors and writers. It's a cutthroat business in a lot of ways, and so it's wise to hold on to your soul firmly with your right hand, but keep your left hand, on your hip for the gun, just in case, without being paranoid. It's not an easy game to play in Hollywood, and the wise participant is aware of all levels of communication within the industry.
When it comes to like script changes, especially like the last second, when you're in that moment, when you're in that emotion, how do you reset that emotion in that moment scene when there's any kind of changes in that moment? How do you reset that?
Which it does quite often. Excuse me. Well, first of all, it's my job to do whatever they tell me to do. So whatever the words are, I must now then take those words and justify them within the emotion or the heightened stake that I was currently playing, and find a way into those words to justify why my character would say this thing in this particular way, you see. So that's my first priority, is to do it. I have no choice. I don't let myself have a choice. Now, unless you're a recurring guest star or you have an arc on the show and you're doing several episodes, then you have more of a say. But as a visitor, really, to the set, I don't believe that it's my place to question what it is the writers who have been working on these shows for X number of seasons. I can't question what it is they're doing. I don't know my character better than they do. They know it. They created it, and I'm sort of a catalyst. I'm the what's that called? I'm channeling their world, and I appreciate that, and I like that because I also direct and write and produce. I can see why they're making a change. So maybe it's a lot easier for me than it would be for a lot of actors. Some would look, but I've memorized these 5 words. I can't suddenly change it to these 5 words, which is why it's very, very important, especially in commercials when there's so much money involved. It's in error for producers to go with non-union actors because non-union doesn't have anything to do with talent level or look. It has to do with the ability to deliver on the spot when you have 45 people breathing down your neck to do one particular thing right and then change it to do it right-er. And the union actor knows they'll do that. They'll make that happen, and it's so fast it'll make your head spin. Non-union actors still aren't experienced enough to not panic, to not freak out. They don't have the well where they can pull up the resources required to actually behave in a professional way and deliver. So it ends up costing the commercial people money, but I think they haven't figured that out yet. They need to lose a lot of money so they'll come back to union work.
That, like, you think, like, when an actor, you can kind of tell this in, as well as film, when sometimes, usually they're good at covering this, but, like, you can tell either some kind of stretch that isn't related to the character, like maybe they did have to repeat the same scene over and over just to get it right, and they have to go back to that one moment, that one line, to restart that emotion, to get that back in there again. And you can see it on some actors, but it can be a little treacherous at times.
Oh, it's incredibly treacherous, but I'd be very curious sometimes to sit with you and watch some scenes or what have you and hear how you break them down, because it's interesting when when I'm watching a film, for example, and I see a particular take, and I think, oh, I wonder if this happened here, I wonder if that happened here. Might be right, but odds are I'm probably not. It could be absolutely anything else. Sometimes what looks like a hesitant performance on the part of an actor is actually the result of bad editing. There's so many different dynamics that go into making visual art in film and television that it's very, very difficult to break down exactly what might have happened on set. Though everybody will have a theory and they could all be right. It's a sneaky little discipline. It's a very tricky discipline. My only thought when I'm watching something that's maybe not quite working is to allow the creators of whatever it is I'm watching the freedom to guide me through the rest of it, because I might just be wrong. So I don't want to get stuck on a particular performance or stuck on a particular camera angle, stuck on a particular line. I'll just kind of notch it, I'll have a little post-it note in my head, and then we'll move forward in the film. Sometimes it's blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
Interesting thing that I noticed the other day, actually. I was telling somebody last night on the carpet about this situation. I woke up and I was listening to radio, and they were advertising some show. I was asleep to the radio, and they were advertising some new television show that was coming on. And they had maybe 3 actors in the scene. Maybe 2, actually. I think it was just 2. And they would deliver the line just like this. And then the other actor would deliver the line just like this. And it was all very flat, and it was all almost monotone, but not quite. And there wasn't really any emotion behind it at all. And I was listening to that thinking, maybe that's what I've been doing wrong. Maybe I need to literally flatten everything down to the point of just nearly yawning, and that will work for network television. I really don't know. It's an interesting study, but it is something I noticed. So yeah, you can watch a film or television show and imagine, or logically conclude what went wrong with a particular piece or scene or performance, and possibly be right, but also give weight to the fact you might be wrong.
Because I've noticed a lot of these other actors, especially like newer films, like, let's act as fast as we possibly can. Like, especially in these action or even horrors, like they speak it down, like, okay, let's go. No, it's like I just missed what was that a scene? Was that a motion? What was going on? You don't even give us a chance to understand it.
Actually, there was some criticism around Fincher's what was it called? Social Network, Facebook movie? Is that what it was called? You know the one I'm talking about.
That was like .com or something.
Fincher directed. David Fincher. The whole thing was like a machine gun, and I happen to love that. It's like, I think that's but it was a choice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's all choice-based, man. I mean, it's, like I said, there's so many things could go on in a scene and stuff like that. Like I said, the theories, everything like that. But I mean, like, it seems like more newer films. Now we're just doing like sagas of. Are we trying to confuse people now by making sagas from the original early sagas of the remakes, and we're just squeezing those in? I mean,
I don't think anybody's trying to confuse anybody. I think all they're trying to do is make some money.
They are.
They are. Anybody is trying.
But like the viewer is going to go be like, when they go see it, it's like, oh, did you see this movie? Oh, you mean the original? Oh no, you mean the remake? No, they just by squeezing into like all these other sagas and stuff into something, you're going to confuse the viewer, like, because they're going to talk about it, they know about it. And then they're like, oh, you mean the remake? Or you mean the prequel? You mean the original? Or are you talking about the new one that just came out with the same title?
Well, yeah, but the only reason they're doing the same title and using retreads, basically, is because they know that will pull X number of people into a theater, if only out of curiosity. They only care if it's good or not because they want the second week to play, the third week to play, the fourth. Don't give people in the business too much credit here in terms of, well, I think we'll do this just to confuse them. They don't think that far. They think no further than the bottom line, will this bring butts in seats? It's just that simple.
Regardless, even if they get negative reviews, no, we're going to make another one.
Yeah, no. You can't really fault them. I mean, if people go, it's not up to them. It's up to the movie-going public who decide what they're going to swallow and what they're not.
It's like if it's a trend or it's not a trend, or if you're nostalgic, guess what? We're going to go for this, and we're going to make that. We're going to have this person from here, and boom, there you go. There's a couple $1 million just for that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So without putting too cynical a light on it, yeah, that's probably very true. I mean, it's exactly the same in a way as let's saying, okay, well, let's put this YouTube star on a television show. Let's put it in the movie. Not that they've ever done anything like that before, but they have 1.2 million followers, so people will come. Doesn't matter if they end up having a career of it or not. The star, in that case, would be disposable. The studio or the producer or whoever is responsible for putting the money up and getting that person, that very inexperienced person, to appear on a television show or a film is the one that matters in that scenario, because they're the ones that know what they're doing and they're trying to make the money. And they're the ones who will stay in Hollywood. It's a tough business. That's all I got.
Yeah, it's so crazy, but hey, there's always somebody. It's an endless chain. It's just going to keep going and going. There's no, you can't do this type of deal anymore. Like the early, television days where companies were actually switching other shows around, and then you're like, oh, it's not going to work, even though that show actually was popular within the first couple weeks, and then disappeared and came back and became a cult classic.
Right. Again, they don't really care about classics. What they'll care about is money. I'll be curious to see how the new Murphy Brown thing works. I've read some really mixed reviews, and I'm a fan of Candace Bergen. I think she's freaking great, and I mostly remember the original show. I haven't watched the new one, but I was reading something the other day that said this retread doesn't happen to be landing. It's not grabbing hold. I was like, well, maybe because it was of its time. And maybe, it should not be Murphy Brown. Maybe it should be Candace Bergen as, Murphy Brown or something. Just change do something new, rather than assuming that everybody wants to watch a show just for nostalgia. Do you watch South Park? Are you a South Park person?
I like it, but...
Ever watched
I do like it, but I don't...
Of episodes a couple seasons ago, I think, where they had, at like a Whole Foods knockoff, these little blue berries. They were little berries in a little box, and they were called the member berries. And so you would go near the berries, and then you would hear all the little berries talking, and they'd be saying things like, hey, remember when that Murphy Brown show was? Oh, I remember Murphy Brown. Oh, I remember this. I remember that. And it's like you get sucked into this weird nostalgia that is, especially in our current political times, really tempting to wallow in. And that's what the entire show was about. It was about avoiding the present and the future by looking at the past. And this is something that in middle age does occur. And I've seen many people I know sort of turn their heads away from what's going on to think back of, New York in the 90s. Oh, Los Angeles in the 70s. It's like, creepy territory there. I'd rather stay with my feet firmly planted in the present, preferably the future, so I can see what's coming, and I know where I am with the world that I'm actually in, not the one I wish I was in. But that's kind of what all these retreads are about. That and making money. We will suck off the desperate nostalgia for middle-aged people and a once proven property, to try and get what few bucks we can get out of it. I mean, it's vampirism in a lot of ways.
Yeah, just like all these franchises.
Good writers to come up with something new that's risky, which they will then possibly lose sponsors over. So I get it. It's a trap for all of them. I'm cynical. I'm sounding really cynical today. I was in a great mood before you called. I think I mentioned the Shriek Fest carpet thing last night. There was a festival here in town for horror films, features, and shorts. And I was asked to go to the opening walk. So I went, and I thought, there'll be free food and booze. So it was a long, long carpet walk. I was like, this is taking a long time. And I kept asking each person that I would see next who would interview. I said, where's the bar? Where's the bar? Are we near the bar? Where's the bar? I want to get near a bar. Turned out it was a cash bar.
Yeah, I was there, too, because I had the vacuum cleaner, and I was going down as you walk behind,
Is that what you were doing? I wonder who that was. Let's get off the topic of the darkness of Hollywood. Let's get into some more of the positives of working in the film and television industry, if that's possible.
Good weather?
You know what's funny about L.A.? I'm originally from Indiana, and I spent many years in New York City. So I grew up knowing how to dress for, and knowing how not to dress for the various seasons. Spring comes, oh la la, life, now we can have sex again. Summer comes, oh, let's work on our tan, fall comes, oh, it's starting to come, let's grab a scarf, and then winter comes, you're probably going to die. But we'll get through it and get to spring. So each of those quarters of the year really mark the passage of time, very specifically. You're aware that, that was 2 years ago, because I remember the winter before last, we had that huge, huge snowstorm, and we couldn't get to the theater, and blah, 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 blah. Whereas in Los Angeles, every day is exactly the same. Pretty much. The only difference I can see is a slight difference in temperature, like 15, 20 degrees. And then in winter, the air is really, really, really clear, so you can see the mountains a lot clearer, and you see snow on the top of it. But as a result, I was talking to one of my new managers earlier yesterday about this, and she's a Chicago gal. And we were talking about it. I said, she has now been here 5 years, and she says, it feels like 2 weeks. Because it's very difficult to mark time in Los Angeles due to the exact same weather every single day. And then you don't notice it. It's very subliminal. Next thing you know, you turn around and you've got a 10-year-old child following you, calling you daddy. It's like, well, I thought you were just born. That is a positive. The weather's great. But, do something deeper than that, though. I mean, about the industry itself. Give me what you got.
How about how many transvestites are acting these days?
Funny you should say that. Really funny you should say that. In fact, there is quite an influx, and I'm pretty happy to say that, because a great number of my friends are not only trans, but certainly do drag.
Oh, nice. Hey, at least they got a job in the industry. That's pretty cool.
My friends don't, so it's a nice balance.
That's probably because I found out your other friends were transvestites.
Mine, Alexandra Billings, is currently on Broadway. She just opened last week in a new show called The Nap. Alexandra was on Transparent as a recurring guest star, or maybe a regular. I'm not sure what her contract was on that. She's a brilliant actress, and she's been working for years, and now she's on Broadway, and I'm thrilled to death. And what's even funnier about that is the woman who's understudying her in her transgender role in this Broadway play called The Nap. The understudy for that is my former roommate in New York City. So this is how small of a world we actually live in. Is not only Alexandra Billings, a buddy of mine, playing a transgender role as a transgender woman on Broadway, but my former roommate, who's also transgender, Bianca Lee, is now understudying her. So yes, there is a lot more work for transgender, and maybe drag, but that's a totally different world. And I guess I won't say LGBT, but more queer, sort of alienated subcultures are making their inroads into everything but network television, and I think that's great.
That is great. I mean, include everybody in this, because you never know. You could always have that big hitter right there and just blow you away.
Well, plus their perspectives. I mean, there are perspectives that nobody can understand unless they've gone through them. See them on their television, and so they they get hypnotized by a new perspective in a very real way. Now, Gray is kind of watered down, but that's better than nothing. I mean, thinking back to, I don't know, what's a good example? Certainly going back further than I was planning on going, I probably shouldn't mention the name, but it is still true, Bill Cosby, in terms of his show and the advances it made with white America, in terms, oh my God, I didn't know black men could be a doctor, that kind of bullshit, to more recently, what was I going to use as an example? Oh, Will and Grace is a good example of that. How it made it safe for, I guess, what could be viewed as standardized, normal, and I use that word very sparingly, America, to take a peek into the view of what a really watered down and generic gay lifestyle might be like. But again, that's still a step forward.
Yeah, it's really cool because they're expanding.
By any chance, did you catch the film Tangerine?
Not recently, no.
Highly recommend it. First film ever shot completely on an iPhone.
Really?
Absolutely great. It's about transgender hookers in Hollywood.
Oh.
It's an incredible film. I highly recommend you catch it. And the fact that film even got made, played at festivals, and was picked up and distributed for regular theatrical viewings was great. All voices need to be welcome in this industry. All of them, far more than the standard straight white male perspective. It's boring.
Yeah, you can't just do the whole, different skin color or different gender, playing a main role in a TV show. It's like, you need to just be open to it and see where it goes, man.
Of course. And also see if anybody's going to buy it, which is the bottom line in Hollywood. Has nothing to do with morals, has nothing to do with even politics. It has to do with money. If a piece is going to make money, they don't care who the hell's playing it. They really, really don't. But the marginalized groups have to do their own shit to prove that it will make money. I mean, if nothing else, then most recently, which I still haven't seen, and I plan to see this week with my editor, Crazy Rich Asians has just made that point. The same point they made over 20 years ago with another fully Asian film that rocked the box office and caused zero change in the industry. Now, maybe this one will have a stronger effect because it's taken the world by storm in terms of, an entirely Asian cast, from what I understand, entirely entirely Asian cast, has brought in buku bucks. So we should, by logical conclusion, see far more. And it's the non-marginalized viewer's job to watch it and to learn something and to accept it into their reality. And that's what is was so great about America, and what we can present to the world that the rest of the world really kind of can't. We can present all of these different points of view as being specifically American and free and valid and welcomed and valued. You know, it's a hard lesson for dying America to learn that it isn't just about, any more old, straight, white men perspective. It's just simply not. You know, as Trump said just the other day, apparently, I can't listen to the man speak, but apparently he had said something about, it's a very scary time for men. Well, damn right it is. It fucking should be. But if you're actually paying attention, and you're actually involved, and you're actually, to some degree, using the word I hate, woke, then it's not scary any more than regular change is scary. There is a place. You give up some of the pie. You don't give up the whole freaking pie. It makes me kind of angry. Again, we're going dark with this interview. This is terrible.
You're becoming negative, sir.
For my brand.
I'm not making any money off of this.
Did any of this rant even land? Did it make any sense at all? Or should I just hang up the phone and
Guys,
go play with my cat?
Those who's going to listen to this, please leave a comment and tell me what he did wrong.
I don't like that idea. Balls in the cage. Balls in the cage.
Balls in the cage. See you at the raffle, guys.
I think I want, if it's all the same to you, I would like this episode, if you title them, to be called Ezra Buzzington's Balls Are in a Cage. Could you do that for me?
I will, just for you. Just for you.
I appreciate that. I really, really do.
Definitely, man. So, okay, go ahead and plug in anything that you're currently working on, and please go ahead and mention your friend about the Broadway play and all that other stuff.
My film Mohawk, which was directed by Ted Gagan and produced by Snowfort, he did, and they did, something called People Under the Stairs, which had a huge following. It was Ted's first film.
Nice.
He's a brilliant director. And this film, Mohawk, is also brilliant. We shot it in Syracuse 2 summers ago, I think. Excuse me. And it's an origin story about the making of a mythological Mohawk visionary creature, a revenge creature, wonderful, called the Deer Monster. And I play a really nasty piece of work who is going after 3 what I view to be terrorist Native Americans, 2 Mohawk and 1 British, during the 1812 War of 1812. And it's a psychological terror ride. It's absolutely wonderful. We get stuck in the woods and we get frightened, and sort of deliverance meets, I don't know, something scarier. But anyway, that was just this last week, certified fresh. And I don't know if you know what that means on Rotten Tomatoes, but it means that I think all of the reviews, there have to be at least 40 reviews that have covered the film, and they're all above 80%. Meaning they're positive. And so it's like, entombed in history forever and ever as certified fresh from Mohawk, and I highly recommend listeners go watch that film, not just for my performance, which is pretty darn good, but absolutely everything about the film is freaking great. And the last film I shot, which was earlier this summer, called Preacher 6, as I mentioned, I think, to you earlier, will get distribution at some point next year. You can find that on all of the social sites. Just Google Preacher 6, and you'll find it. David Slade's Nightmare Cinema, which is a short film called This Way to Egress, which David asked me to appear in, which I did happily, is part of an anthology horror series called Nightmare Cinema that also features Joe Dante, and Mickey Rourke is in it, Richard Chamberlain. Have I said this already? I can't remember.
You did, but they need to know.
Anyway, that'll come out next year.
They need to know.
So Nightmare Cinema, so do that. And the other weird thing, a film I shot quite a while ago called Dug Up, which I thought was dead and buried. It's a funny zombie comedy. It's very funny. What pieces I've seen is, as of October 9th, now available on iTunes, Amazon Video, Google Play, all of those things that you have to do those things that you have to do. There are other things that are in the pipeline that I'm not allowed to talk about right now because they're kind of sort of big, and I don't want to A, jinx it, and B, my manager would kick my ass, so I can't say anything about those. But there's a lot to see Ezra Buzzington soon, knocking wood, and he would love for you to come and look at his sorry ass trying to make a living in an entertainment industry. And also in Art School Confidential by Terry Zwigoff, also starring John Malkovich, interestingly enough. And I play a nude model in that, so I come out, everything swinging to the wind, wop, wop, wop. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, you can be on my channel. It's called Funnel Fury.
Is that right? Is it something I can look up and find and hold to my heart, near and dear?
Well, you can. I mean, I can include you in the credit without you knowing. Yeah, he's in it.
Let's do that, then. That's probably safer.
I mean, I got selfie photos. Come on. Anyway, there you have it, everybody. That is actor Ezra Buzzington, who is everywhere at this point and will be everywhere in the future.
Let me correct one thing. It's actor and asshole, Ezra Buzzington.
Well, that's his middle name, but, abbreviate.
Mike, this has been great. You're a funny man. I wish I could understand you a lot better.
Well, thank you for pretending to listen. It warms my heart.
I was certainly trying. I've got my ears scrunched up to the phone saying, what the... Get a better mic. That's all I'm telling you.
Oh, that is so cold.
Did that hurt? Did that hurt? I'm sorry.
Make a donation.
Yeah, that's what you got to ask your people. It's like, hey, make a donation in my name.
Guys, leave a message and tell him to have him make a donation because I've been doing this for like 10 years and I'm broke as you know.
I hear that loud and freaking clear. I don't even want to talk about my 1990 Toyota Corolla that needs new brakes. So don't sing me your sad damn song. Really nice to get to know absolutely everybody except maybe of a couple of you.
But don't cry.